In 1944, as the world burned and rebuilt, leaders met in a small New Hampshire town, Bretton Woods. Their goal, to create stability after the chaos of war. Their solution, the US dollar. Tied to gold, trusted by all, it became more than money. It became faith. Factories roared, nations borrowed, and America printed the future. Europe rebuilt with American loans. Asia traded in American bills. The dollar wasn't just currency. It was control. It bought influence without invasion, power without conquest. The world didn't realize it yet, but it had just entered the age of the dollar empire. For decades, the world trusted one thing: America's gold. Every dollar backed by shimmering bars deep beneath Fort Knox. Confidence was metal, money was real. But as wars dragged on and spending soared, gold began to vanish. Ships left U.S. shores not with soldiers, but with promises. And promises are easy to print. Nations started asking questions. How much gold is really left? Then came 1971. President Nixon looked into the camera and broke the golden link. The dollar was no longer tied to anything but faith, and the world believed. The paper that once represented gold now represented power, and that power belonged to Washington. When gold lost its crown, America needed a new anchor, and it found one: oil. In 1974, behind closed doors, the United States struck a quiet deal with Saudi Arabia. Every barrel of oil sold would be priced in US dollars, no exceptions. In return, America would protect the kingdom. It was genius. To buy energy, every nation now needed dollars, and to get dollars they had to trade with or borrow from the United States. The dollar was no longer just a currency. It became the bloodstream of global trade. Even those who hated America needed its money to survive. While empires once ruled with armies, Washington ruled with invoices. Every oil tanker on the ocean carried more than fuel. It carried proof of the dollar's dominion. By the 1980s, America discovered a new weapon: debt. While other nations saved, the U.S. borrowed, and the world funded it willingly. Treasury bonds became the safest asset on earth, backed by faith in the American state. The irony? The U.S. printed dollars, other countries produced goods, and both sides thought they were winning. China sent factories, Japan sent electronics, and America sent paper. Green paper that ruled the world. It wasn't just trade. It was a quiet transaction of trust. And every borrowed dollar pulled the rest of the planet deeper into America's orbit. Money was no longer just printed. It was engineered. Wall Street became the empire's capital. Banks turned credit into a global export. Derivatives, futures, swaps, the financial language of power. In 2008, that language collapsed under its own weight. The U.S. housing bubble burst, and the world froze. But instead of falling, the dollar rose. In crisis, everyone ran to the dollar, not away from it. The empire had found its greatest paradox. Even when it failed, the world depended on its failure. When COVID-19 struck, trillions appeared, not printed but summoned. With a keystroke, the Federal Reserve expanded the money supply beyond imagination. The laws of economics bent beneath political necessity. What once required gold now required only belief. Markets soared, debts exploded, and inflation returned like a ghost long buried. But for Washington, it didn't matter. As long as the dollar remained the global benchmark, America could spend what others could not. Deficits became strategy. Debt became dominance. China built factories, Russia built pipelines, and both began to whisper a dangerous question. What if the world no longer needs the dollar? BRICS nations formed alliances, creating alternative payment systems. The yuan gained traction, digital currencies emerged, and gold quietly returned to vaults. But breaking free from the dollar's web is no simple task. Every trade, every loan, every reserve still flows through it. For all their ambition, rivals face the same truth. The system is American at its core. Now money itself is evolving again. The U.S. explores a digital dollar, programmable, trackable, omnipresent, a currency not just printed by the state, but coded by it. The future empire will not be built with soldiers or oil, but with algorithms. Control of the code means control of the economy. And the nation that defines digital value defines digital power. In the end, the dollar's supremacy might not fade. It may simply upgrade. Every empire falls the same way. Too much debt, too much pride, too much belief in its own immortality. The Roman denarius, the British pound, they too once ruled the world. The United States now owes over $38 trillion, yet still dictates the rules. Because the secret of empire isn't balance, it's confidence. As long as the world believes in the dollar, the empire lives. But if that faith cracks, even slightly, the entire system trembles. And when the empire built on promises begins to doubt itself, history repeats. Money, in the end, is not metal, paper, or even code. It's belief, shared, fragile, and powerful enough to build civilizations. The dollar story is not just America's. It's the story of all of us, our trust, our greed, our dependence. Empires may change, currencies may evolve, but the question remains eternal. When money is power, who holds the power to believe?